Well, that could have been better. So I went to go see Karate Kid Legends today, and it was fundamentally a disappointment. There were different reasons why. Let me give you the basic setup, and then I'll get into the problems I had with it. The basic setup is that there is this kid who moves to New York with his mom. Jackie Chan had been his teacher. At one point, I thought he referred to him as his uncle, but I don't know if that's kind of just like a cultural meaning or if he really was supposed to be a blood uncle, because that just wasn't clear to me. Anyway, his mother brings him to New York. He's lost his brother. His brother is dead. And as the story progresses, you find out more about that backstory. When he's in New York, obviously there's going to be a bully he encounters. This is very formulaic with the Karate Kid stuff and Cobra Kai stuff. The formula is exactly the same as pretty much any other Karate Kid film. He meets this girl whose father's in trouble with some loan sharks, so he helps the father to hone his fighting skills so that he could potentially win money to pay off the loan sharks. And so there's this whole storyline with that. And then he's got this romantic competition thing going with this guy that had been a previous boyfriend of the girl he likes. And so there's that whole stupid setup there for that situation, and that's the lead up to the final showdown. You know, the final fight that he's going to have is obviously with this guy, and it's a very sort of similar type of scenario that was in the first Karate Kid, where you know, with the character of Johnny, and then his oh my gosh, the guy played by Cove. Gosh, I can't remember that character's name. I'm still watching Cobra Kai. Anyway, it was an almost exactly repeat story as the first Karate Kid, except we have Jackie Chan. Ralph Macchio does come in. He has they both have relatively small parts because it's not about them, but they do engage in training him or helping to train him for the stuff that's upcoming. And there is a very teeny tiny link to Cobra Kai at the very end, right before the main credits start rolling. So you might get a kick out of seeing that. And speaking of Cobra Kai, honestly, you guys, that's the movie that should have been made. I mean, you had an entire cast of characters already established. You wouldn't need to reestablish their backstories again. You got storylines that could be continuing even after the show ended. It was ripe for the picking. I don't know why they didn't go with something like that instead of what they gave us with Legends. Okay, back to the video. But in general, this film felt generic and it felt stale. And the acting, well, some of the acting was okay. The guy who owned the pizza shop, I can't remember his name, but you guys know exactly who he is. I've seen him I think he played in Dawson's Creek and he was in Fringe. He was fine in there. The girl that played his daughter, she was okay. The boy who played the main character, I don't feel like he had the charisma necessary to pull off this part that he had, this role that he was playing, because he wasn't very magnetic. He wasn't very compelling. He just felt kind of meh. The whole story felt meh. And some of the scenes that happened, some of the conflicts that happened in different scenes felt very contrived, very weakly done. The romance triangle was just so silly and eyeball roll inducing to me. The writing felt very weak and it just wasn't emotionally compelling. I mean, they try, but this almost felt like something that an AI would have written. That's how stale it felt. Like there was just no real energy and life in it. For me, that was the impression I got. And I'm not a huge fan of Karate Kid, but the first movie is, it's good. It is what it is. Cobra Kai, I think, is better. But even that wears a little thin with this stupid teenage love triangles and drama and all that. It just, oh, okay, that gets a little old. But I went into this expecting that it was going to be something better, and it definitely wasn't. It was overall a disappointment. It was not very long. So for all the story that has to happen in here, it felt like it was very rushed. It was only about an hour and 34 minutes. So of course, with credits, it's going to be only about an hour and 30 or even less than that. And there was, as I already said, a lot of story to tell. So things felt very fast forwarded. Everything felt like it was just sped up, and you didn't really have time to kind of marinate in the story and the characters and the dynamics of all the characters. It just felt like boom, 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 we're done. And it felt perfunctory. It felt very formulaic. It just did not work very well for me at all. And honestly, I know this doesn't have the greatest ratings with the official critics. I'm feeling like normal moviegoers, normies, whatever, they're probably going to enjoy it okay. And the reason I thought this is because when I say normal, I also mean people that don't go to movies with the explicit intent to review them, to critique them, like people like I do and my other YouTube movie loving and movie critic buddies. So this father and his son were on the way out of the theater, and I asked them what they saw, because I encountered them in the lobby, and we got to talking, and I asked what they saw, and he said Karate Kid, and then he was telling me how good he thought it was, and I was like, I was like, oh, I thought it was good. And like, well, it's not the worst I've ever seen, but I didn't think it was all that great. I was like, well, at least it's very family friendly. I didn't want to burst his bubble. I am glad he enjoyed it. There was some laughter. There were some moments that were a little comedic, but they did feel pretty contrived. They just didn't feel like it was something that came about organically, that felt like it flowed naturally. It just felt like it was, just kind of pushed in there to make this happen, and here you go, we got all the elements, here's a movie. But it's a movie that feels like it lacks heart. And I kind of wasn't expecting that from a Karate Kid movie, even though, these are they follow the same sort of pattern. It honestly feels like, the 2010 movie, I enjoyed that movie. That was fairly formulaic too, but I liked it. This one was not, in my opinion, as good as that one. They were trying to blend in elements of the 2010 movie with Jackie Chan, and they did have sort of some narratives woven in there that were taken from elements of the 2010 movie, like the jacket on and off and all that stuff. They were doing that. And then they were also trying to tie in elements of Karate Kid 2, I think, because there was a scene they showed that looked like it came from Karate Kid 2. It's been forever since I've seen that. And, Ralph Macchio, and they were just kind of trying to blend it all together, make this cohesive storyline. Miyagi-Do, and then the martial arts that Jackie Chan's character did. They had this backstory, which looks like it was taken from that scene in Karate Kid 2. And like I said, I haven't seen it in forever, so I don't remember this scene, but it's like they took that and tried to use that to create this link with Jackie Chan's character and bring everything sort of full circle. I don't know. I didn't expect it to be as weak as it was, and so that was an unfortunate viewing experience. I'm not sure yet if this is going to go down on my list of worst of the year. There were multiple times that I was rolling my eyes because I was like, oh, and I was sighing. I was like, oh. I was like, oh, this is so predictable. This is so silly. So just things that they needed to make characters do so they would create these scenarios that would get the person to that particular moment that had to happen, but the way they got them there was lame. Just like, why would you just happen to pick up this rolled up ball of paper trash and open it to conveniently see this thing about this tournament because the character had to? But you wouldn't normally be doing something. You just throw the trash in the trash can, just, and there were other things like that, that went on, especially when it came to the whole stupid romance thing with the girl and her ex and the new guy. And it was just, I just couldn't. This film did not work for me on almost any level. It just didn't. So those are my thoughts on Karate Kid Legends. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that for now, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.